you doing? Playing ninja. This has nothing to do with ninjas though. No ninjas. No. But it was made by ninjas though. Ah. I've got to say that I never played a game like this before that dives into a main character's illness like psychosis. To my knowledge, that hasn't been done before, and I've got to say right from the start that this game isn't for everyone. Where it does play on that and makes you aware that your character suffers from this, and even the game has a warning label at the menu in case you're sensitive to subject matters like this. HellBlade is set in North Celtic lore, other words I think it means Viking time, where it has a lot of information on them, but I could be wrong about that. HellBlade in its core is a psychological horror creepy puzzle game what makes you question what's constantly going on by its presentation from the start. You know that you're going to be into a dark, gritty game. I'm not talking about like some horror games with jump scares in it. This game got into my head and made me think about it for some time after, of what was real and what wasn't, and to this day I never had a game what played over in my mind as this did. When I first heard of this game way back, I thought that players were exaggerating a bit of what this game is by how dark and gritty and how brilliant the storytelling is. And I've got to say, they weren't exaggerating at all. For the story, you play a character called Senua who suffers from a mental illness called psychosis, so you're seeing and hearing everything from her perspective. So Senua goes on a journey to resurrect her dead lover who was brutally murdered by Vikings. So Senua carries her dead lover's severed head to the underworld known as Helheim to get him back. It's kind of like Shakespeare with that skull. To be or not to be? Actually, I was asking a pretty similar question throughout my playthrough on this game. Shakespeare and Predator's definitely got a lot in common. I'm trying to be serious here. Well, it sounds like a pretty straightforward story to get a dead lover back and kick demonish ass who gets in her way, but it's anything but that. I think I was really confused on what was really going on at first until I got to the end and thought about it and realised that this is a masterpiece of storytelling that I ever come across. And that's the best that I can say without spoiling the game, where this is a story intensive game. When I first started the game off, the game disorientated me a bit, where it kept on switching from the left and right speaker with the voices that speak to you, and this would have been better if I had surround sound system set up.
What's happening? It's breathing. It's breathing. It's breathing. He knows she's getting closer. He can feel her coming closer. She's getting closer. They're watching.
This is a journey deep into darkness. There will be no more stories after this one.
Even though the game says that it's more immersive if you put headphones on with its binary sound, and I don't doubt that at all, where I was playing with headphones on, and it was really good with these voices that play a huge part in the game. Except, I just can't help to wonder what it would be like with surround sound system on. So if you actually got surround sound system, please tell me what it was like. The majority of the game are solving these puzzles, what you usually find on these doors, like finding glyphs with your third eye vision on your terrain, what makes up the pattern with the environments and objects around Senua. And then you got to line up your character of the site of path to get it, and I found that you got to be near enough perfectly in line to get these patterns or it don't register. And this can be a bit frustrating if you're a tiny bit out of line, yet the game does give you a hint on where these patterns are with these floaty letters to find these patterns. Nevertheless, for the most, I had fun trying to figure out these puzzles, and I like the illusion doors the most, where it changes what you see, and the game puzzles I like one after the other, and usually I'm not into puzzle games. Yet this got me into solving these puzzles, and when I did them I felt like I accomplished something major. Near enough at the start of the game you're infected with this rot on your arm, and every time when you die the rot on your arm will grow, and if it hits your head the game will end and it be a permanent death on that save, and you have to start over again. Well, that's what the game says anyway. Other than, in all, I think I only died like 3 times in the whole game, and that was on one puzzle where you're running through the building with the fiery ghost that follows you, and you got to find the glyphs and get to the door in a small like maze.
There it is. It's close. Run now! What should I do? Where's your sword? The light. Go towards it. Focus. Two more. Where are they? Where are you? Don't let it see it. Don't get lost. Don't let it see you. You'll start to burn.
And the other time was when I got surprise attack in a dark room, so I wasn't really worried about the rotting arm because I found it hard to die a lot in the game. And if you take a lot of damage in a fight, it gives you a keep tapping button to get back up before the enemy kills you. So the game is very forgiving in combat, and for me the rotting arm wasn't really a threat, it's something that I kept in the back of my mind. The combat seems quite familiar to other hack and slash games. It's got a dodge and a heavy attack and a light attack alongside a block, and you can mix and match these up a bit to get a bit of a combo going. And you can slow down time in combat. It's like a recharge move what you can use in short bursts, and some enemies do require you to use this to defeat them, like the Raven boss fight. The combat in all ain't that difficult, where the AI has an easy pattern to learn. It did feel balanced, there were no difficulty spikes that I found. However, saying that, I felt like the normal difficulty setting was a bit too easy for me. I suggest playing it on anything above the normal difficulty setting to get that bit of a challenge out of combat. The level design is pretty linear, it's pretty much follow the path that's laid out before you and solve the puzzle to progress in the campaign, yet these areas are so well crafted I did not care about the linear path. There's these story stone collectibles what are sort of hidden throughout your playthrough. Some you will come across with ease and others are well hidden. They tell you a little bit about Norse mythology, and if you'd like collecting and learning about it, then this is right up your street.
The Northmen speak of 9 worlds. The world of men they call Midgard. Sky gods dwell in Asgard. The gods of earth, harvest, wind and sea dwell in Vanaheim. The good elves dwell in Alfheim. The evil ones dwell in Svartalfheim. The mountain giants dwell in Jotunheim. The fire giants dwell in Muspelheim. Niflheim is the world of ice and darkness. Only the dead dwell in Helheim. And that is where you must travel.
And I do like how the game has a way to fuck with your mind of questioning what's real and what's not. It's something that kept on making me guess throughout my playthrough. I thought that the graphics were gobsmackingly awesome and well detailed, especially on the expression on Senua's face. I could not believe that they pulled this level of detail off on a budget like this. And for me, the eyes really sold it, where Senua looks at the cam and then looks down, then away, then down to the floor again. I can tell the depth of emotion and uncertainty on this character just by the eyes alone, what makes the character feel alive for me. And the environments that I've got to explore is breathtaking by how well detailed it is, from the deep gritty stuff to the beauty of some of these views where I can just stare at it and take in the sight. I wouldn't want to swim here though with all these shipwrecks. For the cutscenes, a lot of the time I had trouble what was a cutscene and what was in gameplay, where they blended into each other really well. There are moments where Senua talks to the camera and makes me think, is she talking to me? All these voices, what made me think this would have been really freaky in VR. Especially with this character that comes on screen from time to time and tells you something. I felt like each cutscene was well crafted for the situation. For the voice acting, saying that it's brilliantly done is an understatement. Senua's voice acting is outstanding, including the voices in her head. This is some of the best voice acting that I've ever heard in a game.
But her world changed the day the Northmen took him from her. Senua knows that there's no going back to how things were. That there's nothing to go back to at all.
Stay still, stay quiet, hide, don't tell her.
Their gods can see into your mind. They will use this power to destroy you.
They won't stop me. I can still feel it.
Whatever's left of him, they will never let him go.
I'm not gonna let him rot here.
You're the one rotting here.
Leave me alone.
You will die here.
No.
And all your suffering will have been for nothing.
Shut up!
And the whisper voices throughout the whole game making me cautious of what was next ahead of me, and it switches from the left and right speaker on my headphones. It's a bit creepy, saying the least, but extremely well done. So if you're into your ASMR, you're gonna love this game. Far along the game is, it's going to vary from person to person on how long it takes to solve the puzzle. For me, I've clocked on 8 hours in total from beginning to end. So in the end, I thought HellBlade is a brilliant game, what was well researched, and I'm glad that I got to play it. Even now, HellBlade has still got me thinking about it and that ending, and now I can't wait for the second game to come out, especially with that trailer that dropped last year. So have you played it? What do you think of HellBlade? Leave it in the comments below. Until next game, you guessed it, I'm fucking off. Not at all the same thing. Oh, Celtic and Vikings are two different things. Kind of like Shakespeare with that skull. To be or not to be? Actually, I was asking him a pretty similar question throughout my playthrough on this game. What are you doing? This has nothing to do with ninjas, it's about Norse mythology. No. Correct.